Hey everybody, welcome back to the Woman of the Wise podcast. This is Sammy and
Allison.
today we are joined by Sherry L. Riley of Sherry L. Riley Intuitive Healing. And we are going to discuss her journey, her movement through things prior to this being, kind of a trend, this healing thing, this natural medicine and energy healing stuff. What was that like prior to it being such a big thing and within the community? And then just hear a lot of great advice from someone who's been doing it a lot longer than us. So we're excited to dive in.
Yeah. Man, Sherry, the floor is yours. So however you want to rock it, you do the thing. We're here for it.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you guys and to kind of share my journey. And I was thinking about it before I started, 22 years, 23 years now that we're at the beginning of 2023. And who would have thought? So, I started out as a life coach. So in 2000, I went to Coach U for a while and started doing life coaching. And I found it fascinating that someone would pay me for doing what I did naturally. That was so cool. And two things happened that switched me into healing work. One was I started working with clients, and no matter how much they wanted to do their homework, do the things that we put down as goals, they were hitting blocks. And I was like, what's going on here? What is stopping them? At that moment, also, I started having some marriage issues. And so, of course, like all of us, when we begin our healing journey, we get healed, right?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. That's what happens.
Absolutely. So at that point, I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And so I realized that they were hitting blocks, that something was stopping them from moving forward, even though they wanted to move forward. And that was about 2 years into this coaching journey. And at that point, I was really starting to connect into my guides. I've always kind of had this gift. I didn't know what it was. I was thinking back, I remember in high school, being 14, 15 years old, and I would get messages from my friends, and I would just say I had a dream. And I really kind of thought I had a dream. I didn't even register that this was coming from not a dream state. And I would give them whatever advice that would come through, and that was it. Never thought anything else about it. So as I started my spiritual journey and really realizing I had guides and who was talking to me and all of that, it was a transition. And somebody showed up, a friend of mine who did IET, which is integrated energy therapy, which is a healing modality. So I'm an IET practitioner. And I got into working with a midwife.
Cool.
And this midwife had a holistic programs that she would do. And I was hired as the coordinator. Right?
Cool.
Lucky me. Everybody wanted to show me their work so that they would get a workshop. And I'm sure you guys know what that's like, right? Working in this, when you have other people that you're kind of sharing their work. They're like, come on, I'll do a free session.
Yeah. So
I had everything, rebirths done, all kinds of stuff happened during that year. And that was the 2002. And so one of the women said, come on, I'll do IET on you. And the first time I had IET, now my dad died when I was 8. And the first time she did IET on me was when I saw my father in my mind's eye for the first time since I was 8 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So big heart healing, right? Big heart healing. And I was like, ooh, I like this. There's something here. And she suggested, she did a workshop for us. So yeah, she got in and did the workshop. But after that, she suggested I take a class. and she was the person that kind of trained me. And the very first time I worked on someone, I got a vision of this little girl. I was walking on her heart and we were practicing, and I got this vision of a little girl crying at a window. And so all I did was share what I saw, right? And she was like, oh my God, that was me. My mom went back to work when I was 9 years old. And my mother ended up having to quit because I was just broken by her leaving me. And I was like, all right, something's going on here. So I stuck with the IT, got more intimate with my guides, and started getting messages and doing energy work to help people move through their blocks while I was coaching them so that they could connect into their authentic self. And I guess that's how this all started. So again, 20 years or so ago, I started moving into this intuitive healing work.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you've said yes.
I said yes.
So can you talk a little bit? Because, in the time where you were doing this, right, it wasn't like we have like tons of internet and social media like we do now. So what was it like for you to experience these really poignant, like workshops and healing sessions, and can you talk a little bit about what like your we're going to call it quote unquote healing journey was for you through that? Like, because what it feels like to me as you're telling the story is like this is like a really like the phoenix coming out from you and really allowing your true light to shine and come through. Can you give me a little tea on that? Because I imagine, I have lots of imagination on what happened. So what happened? What was it like?
All right. So first of all, let me start with one of the most interesting things was when I was in my coaching classes. I remember them saying that by the year 2020, we're going to have, and don't quote me on this number, but I seem to remember, that was a long time ago, but it seemed to remember them saying by 2020, we're going to have 20,000 coaches. And at some point during this healing journey, when I was getting messages from my guides, it was very clear to me that the reason people were called to train so many coaches is they were really healers. And we needed that many healers to shift the paradigm like we're doing now.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I knew I was at the beginning of this journey, but that many more were coming because that was the message I got, right, even way back then, kind of leaning into the coaching part of my work. So at that point, I had some mentors, right? I had the woman that trained me in the IT. I had this midwife who, though she was a nurse and a midwife, there was a lot of information. She was very intuitive, though, she emitted that kind of energy, even though she didn't call it that. I think she knew she was a healer. People used very mainstream language, right? But the energy of it resonated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I remember, Sylvia Brown, right, back then. And I was just talking to my daughter about this because I was telling her we were doing this podcast, and I was like, yeah, I remember. She's like, John Edwards, Mom, remember when you used to watch John Edwards? So she even remembered at the beginning of my journey. I think part of it was because my father died, and I was like trying to find a way to connect in. And I think a lot of people start with mediums as their first introduction to energy work. So that was starting, right? Like he had a show on TV. And so right, it was starting to rev up. So I guess I feel like my guides put the right people in my path to help me build. And I also had a healer that I worked with. And so she really kind of helped and supported me. And that was where I was getting a lot of my regular healing work on top of going to therapy, because my marriage was falling apart.
Right.
My mother died.
Right.
My ex-mother-in-law died the next year.
Yep.
Like, all these things were happening. So, you know, when you talk about, you know, our healing journey, I call it God playing 52 card pickup. Like, everything just got thrown up in the air, fell on the ground. And then my job was to figure out which cards I wanted to put back in my hands.
Right. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, when I started meeting this and starting to put my authentic journey into place, and figure out who I was in my 30s, and it was a journey. It was a journey. You know, like I said, I had to follow my authentic truth.
Yeah.
And that meant speaking my truth, finding my voice first, then speaking my truth, and following the path.
Doing it. Right. Yeah. It's incredible. I think a point that you brought up, which is so perfect, is how, you know, you had a space for your heart, you had a space for your body, you had a space for your mind, right? Because there was the therapy going through, and really as you worked through like this breakthrough, right? You had so much support in all the ways. So for those who are listening, like, it does take a village for us to heal, man, because there's so much that happens. It really, truly does, you know. And I think Sherry pointing this out so beautifully is like your whole world, like 52 card pickup, like that is like the most perfect way I've ever heard it described. So you're just like, man, all right, we'll go here. And so you've had all this time, you've gone through all of this, you know, you're at 2020. So what was 2020 like for you, and going forward these next, what are we in year 4 or 5 of this? What are like the last 4 or 5 years like? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, so to back up, so yeah, about 6 years ago now, my work started shifting. So let me back up just a little bit. So I started doing individual sessions. I started doing what I call sacred circles, so group healing work. I work 99.99% of the time with women. And I knew my journey was here to support women as they move through their authentic journey. Oh. And depending on what I was working on, as you guys probably know, those were kind of the circles that were coming up, the way that I was supporting women. So I did like authentic body work, and I did, you know, different support as I moved through different things in my healing journey. And my guides gave me a technique where they give me an age so I can laser in on the block, and help people remove that. And one of my clients that took my intuitive healing certification class, I think said it best. She said the difference between intuitive healing and therapy is kind of client led. So if you don't want a therapist to know something, they don't know it.
Right.
But intuitive healers, we know shit. Ooh,
yeah.
Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah, again. Get it.
Right? We know stuff. So we get to the underlayer that maybe your client isn't even aware of. That's part of the block. So my guides give me an age when we're kind of stuck there. My guide give me an age, and I can say, okay, so Sammy, what happened at age, 15? And then we'll start talking about that age. And then that will bring to the surface something that needs to be energetically released.
Yeah.
So I'm working with my guides and I'm learning them and all that and how to bring this work forward. And then about 6 years ago, I get this download for an intuitive healing certification class. And that changed my work, because that moved me for what I call like people that are just beginning their journey to working with women that are highly sensitive, that maybe have some other, just like me with the coaching, have some other modality that they got started in. Maybe they're a massage therapist, a physical therapist, or coach. And really, they are highly sensitive and are getting and don't really know how to manage their energetic gifts. And so I got this download to do this certification pretty much to just bring confidence to these healers that maybe don't really understand exactly what's going on, and how to shift their work. So that's what happened about 6 years ago. I did it for 4 years, and then in the end of 2020, I had another major healing. A friend of mine for 30 years and I kind of had a breakup. We've done the work and we're back together and we're still friends. So that was great. But I really had a major, as you talk about, I think a lot of us with COVID, we had these breakthroughs. So I did a lot of mother wound work, a lot of grief work. Again, by the time I was 27, I had lost both my parents. So, I had a lot of work to do around that. And took a year off from my class, teaching the certification, because I just didn't have the bandwidth to support people. And now I'm back, and Sam's helping me do a whole nother structure with my class that I'm very excited about, because I can hold space for more people this way, more women. And now I feel like I'm really moving into holding the space of love. So it may not be maybe as much coaching and more really holding space so that people can feel safe. To have hard conversations, to look inside, to honor their hearts. So I'm kind of excited of where my work is headed. I think it might shift, but I do feel like I'm excited to bring the work that I've mastered over the last 20 years into the world to help bridge women that are now ready, because this is the time. Like, I feel like women are really being called to heal their own hearts so that we can hold space for others.
Yes, I 1000% agree with that. I've had so many women especially reach out and be like, hi, when are you starting this? When are you doing this? When's this starting? When are you teaching? What's going on? I'm like, it's coming. It's coming. Sure. What I really love so much is that you shared is that you took time for yourself. You took a whole year. I want to point that out, ladies and gentlemen, and everywhere in between.
Yeah, I think COVID has been the time, I actually think for us sensitive people, it was a blessing, because we got to pause, and that felt so good that a lot of us are realizing and restructuring our lives to try to keep some of that downtime instead of the go, go, go that we were taught means success. It's important to do self-care. My very first class in my certification program is ethics, and I teach that self-care is a necessity if you're doing this work. And I think that's why also I say, you have to charge for the time, because you also have to figure in the time of rest and rejuvenation.
There's a lot to it. Yeah. It's amazing too. And I think something that you say so well in such a beautiful way is that, you have those years of expertise behind you and growth and everything. So there is this innate knowledge, and Sam talks about this a lot through her teaching. We spend this time devoting to ourselves and our craft and our passion, and And we did the work. So I love that so much that you said that. So that's so great. It is really so important.
Yeah, we always talk about how like you'll hear random healers or people say, well, I've already mastered my shadow work, or I've already done all my healing or whatever. And it's like every time Allison and I hear someone say that, we're like, boop, red flag. Because it's like you're a human. You keep evolving and growing, and you see other facets of yourself and you go, oh, interesting. Like it's just, yeah, I love when I speak with people who've been doing this for a long time, and they always come back to like, how am I healing and what am I integrating in that's new, and how am I re-looking at things instead of just, and I think part of this comes from you being an Aquarius. You're willing to keep an open mind and learn and keep up, and yeah, Aquarian love here on this current week.
We're both wearing the same color. I would like to point out too. It's like we spidey sense. I was like, are we gonna be wearing our Aquarian power color today? I was like, yep. I think I've been wearing this shirt for like 3 days too. I was like prepping. I was ready.
It's also a throat chakra. I was like, all right, I need my blue. And I have my crystal too, just in case.
Yeah. That's so
that's a really good point. I have a funny story about that. So I was telling you about my healer that I was using way back. And I remember saying to her, I just want to finish healing. And she laughed and laughed, right? Because, she's like, yeah, like I thought that if I finished healing, then my marriage would be okay. And then I could move on or whatever. So yeah, that was, she found it quite comical. And now I understand.
Yeah.
Understand why. But I also think, energetically, the world's changing and the frequencies are stronger. And so everyone is being asked to upgrade and to learn how to connect into these higher frequencies that are proven that's out there right now. I mean, they're scientifically proven that there's higher frequencies in our environment, and so we're all being asked to upgrade. And I think that's part of the breakdown that's happening right now, and why so much grief and fear, those denser energies that vibrate at a lower frequency, are coming up, up and out energy, right? It's like they're coming up to be released because they're eventually not going to be sustainable. And that doesn't mean you never have grief or fear. They're there to help us teach and to know we're hitting boundaries and what we need to change. But to live in that frequency isn't going to be sustainable. So that's part of the work too, and why I think so many of us are being called to manage the intense energies out there, so that we can, talk about Aquarian, that we can move into this Aquarian energy where there is love and compassion and support and
yeah, in a very individualistic way. I think something that is, we talk about a lot here is, this movement, and you see it all over in whatever different kind of prophecy, whether it be galactic or Nostradamus or religious, or currently my obsession is human design. And so they're all saying the same thing. They're like, you matter, your individual thread, frequency, adventure, what you came here to do, your blueprint, your astrological sign, your walk on the path, it matters. So find a way, a tool, something that works for you. Do the work. We're so many of us here to support you, who've come to Earth and said, yeah, we'll support you because you're important. All of us are needed, right, in our own beautiful, unique way. And I think what is so beautiful about this, especially as being an intuitive healer that you talked about, is that you allow for that fabric, right, of the threads for each one to showcase its individual light in that way, which is really cool.
Absolutely. Like, we're all a piece of the puzzle. I mean, and you can't have a complete puzzle without every piece, for anyone that's done a puzzle and lost a piece, right? Like, it sucks. So we're all needed. We're all special. it's funny, I go back to my children because, back then when you talk about the beginning and like my coaching work, and my son still says, I know, Mom, we're all snowflakes, like that was something that was one of those taglines back in the 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways it really is true. We really have a unique gift, and part of what we have a soul's purpose, and part of I think our journey is to figure out what that is and bring it to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it does take time to figure out what that is, and like Sammy said earlier, it changes. So the work that when I was doing authentic body work for people, and sometimes it's hard to move on to the next thing that, that you're being called to share. But that's also part of the trust in yourself.
Yeah,
and
knowing that you can change. Right. Yeah, because some people fall into they find the thing. And they're like, we're going to do this thing. The way I'm structured is like, I was like, I want to learn all the things. I want to experience all of them and then talk about it. And then I want to get together and talk about everyone sharing their experiences. Sometimes Sammy's like, what's happening this week? What did you find? What are you getting yourself into? And I was like, yeah. But then we'll find the expert who it's their thing. And then we come together and we bring each other to teach each other, and like the circles and everything. And, there's just so much to it. I love so much how you really brought up like being supported, coming through your journey and really seeing that. And the snowflakes things just always makes me laugh because now we have these super dope cameras, right? That can take these pictures of the snowflakes. The snowflakes I've seen on the social media, every snowflake is different, you guys, and they're all perfect in these geometric, like sacred geometry shapes, so it's even to me, I was like, yep, that's right. And then we all pile together and we make snow, and we can have snowmen and snowballs and go sledding on it, or like if you're the dog, you get to go to jump in it, right, and live your best Akita life. It's gonna be great.
Or make snow angels.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could never do that because that like sweet little Virgo in me, that like little moon part was like, it's not perfect. Perfect line. You can see the footprints. My dad would be like, how do you think angels got there? They didn't just land, they walked. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he'd say some deep point thing, were angels born with wings, flying, being able to fly, or did they walk and then fly? I was like, Dad, yes, you're right.
Oh, Bob.
Bobalicious. Bring me some patchwork elephants. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, you guys, for those of you who have the calling now or have been out doing it for a while, to stay true to your purpose and your path. And if you're feeling the call to work with Sherry, where can people find you? Like, how do they get in touch? I know Sammy's got a little bit of intel on that, but I'd love to hear it from you. I really like you said, when the right people come, it's a perfect match. So tell us all the things.
So the best way to get in touch with me or find out what I do is through my website, and it's SherryLRiley.com.
Beautiful.
So I think I will put something up around that or something, or should
in the show notes there'll be links. Yeah.
Okay. So that's probably the best and easiest way. I am on Facebook, Sherry L. Riley Intuitive Healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a text kind of new program. I'm kind of coming into technology with Sammy's support.
Yeah.
I need talk about like you talk about having support about healers. I need the support on the tech side because I'm over here all floating around nice and happy. I don't always like bringing it down into the ground. So I do have that, and maybe we can figure out how to get people to sign in on that in some comments as well. And basically what I do is that's where you can get information about my monthly circles.
Cool.
I have a authentic circle on Zoom, so you can once a month and meet like-minded women, and we do some healing work, and I share about the energies of the month. And it's a beautiful, supportive community. And like I said, that's on Zoom, so anyone can join that. And I have a full moon circle once a month, but that's in person, and I'm in New York. So and I also have a sacred circle in person in New York, where is more of a healing circle. So I do that. My class, there's information on the website about how to join that. We just started around, but I'm creating a waiting list for the next round.
Yes.
So if you're interested in the intuitive healing certification program, message me, and I'll get you information on that. And yeah, so that's probably the best way to get
I
a hold.
love it. I like how my guides are laughing. They're like, see, she just used her name. And I was like, yep. My Aquarian took over, Sherry. It was like, let's match these three words together and make a name that's SaiYunaste. That's just like me, right? Doing my like little life over here, my little Aquarian life, right? And then there's Pellucidity, which in the like, which is really, if you want to go by the dictionary, is pellucidity. But I was like, I don't like pronouncing it like that. So, it's so great. They're just giggling. They're like, so Sherry L. Riley, that's so beautiful. So I'm sure you guys can just Google it too, if that calls to you. Of course, you can always connect with either Sammy or myself to help find your way to Sherry, if that's the way that you prefer. But I definitely feel if you're feeling the call, some kind of, some kind of, you like ride that emotional wave, like lean into yourself. If it feels right, do it. You are worth it. You are worth the work that you put in. You are worth every moment, so much of what we do in this community is, and especially like in this podcast and, how we do that is there's so many of us in this tribe, and, we all have contracts with each other, and, it's really good to get different experiences and what's right for you. And remember that you're worth it. Like we need you. We need you there. It cannot be done alone. Everybody is needed, every single one. And how you choose that, it's great, because we'll ricochet out into a bunch of different timelines and dimensions, and it all thread together perfectly, and it's fine. And I'll see you in a coffee shop like in the morning, and then like later on, and it's two different news. It'll be great. But I want you guys to reach out and really start feeling, your call and your work, and how you want to do that. Here we're bringing, just as Sherry so beautifully pointed out in her own story, is, multi levels of support, different kind of things. Like we all know somebody who knows somebody who can help you. Yeah. So please allow that to be. Please lean in and get to know Sherry just now on this podcast. Go check out her website. We'll blab about her on our little social media pages too. We've got our own little like cute Women of the Wise Facebook page and Instagram, and like that women, that's how like things are waiting for you, right? I was like, no one on the planet has picked Women of the Wise for TikTok for do you know what I mean? I'm just like, for the podcast, I was like, how? And they laugh, they go, it's important. Just because you think somebody has already done it doesn't mean that they have. The greatest thing you can do is say yes to yourself and try. So guys, please check out Sherry. She's beautiful. She's an Aquarian. You know how I feel about Aquarians, being one myself and my son, and knowing that we're in the Aquarian age, like no pressure, but circles, connection. She's got the gears, she's got the expertise, she's walked the walk. She really stands in her truth and shines her light, and that's what we're all about. And Sherry, thank you so much for coming on today and spending time with us and sharing your story. I'm really looking forward to like walking the path with you and seeing where you take people, and helping with your circles and doing all this stuff to get everyone where they need to go. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm grateful to have crossed paths with you guys. It was an immediate attraction. That's how we know, right? And I think that that's what people have to start trusting where they resonate, and allow that to take precedence over your mind thinking you should do this, or these are the people you should contact with. That's part of healing our hearts so that we can lean in and connect into that love frequency that allows us to bring our family tribe together.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah. It also helps to have a Sammy. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. Things happen.
I love it. I love it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us on the Woman of the Wise podcast. Please feel to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know all of your beautiful thoughts. We'll catch you next time. Bye.